recording. Second, yeah, it's on. Today we have very great day just because during our joint SkillCamp and several follow-up session, we got several really proposals of sharing or best practice or even vice versa. People understood the level of skills, the level of knowledge is not good enough, or they won't really expand their expertise to another area. And we found several areas where this or that experts is really very professional and is ready to share. So, but the most difficult and tough stuff is really to start. And today we have Bruno, who volunteered to be the first to start, and that is something which he really showed to us this topic about quantification, about with 5D BIM, etc. So I'm very pleased to invite Bruno to the stage and what he will share his thoughts. I would really encourage you during his presentation to write all your questions into the chat, just because after he can answer your questions. And after, you could also unmute your microphone and ask your question verbally. So Bruno, it's stage is yours. Please go ahead. And please unmute your microphone.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Alexei. Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. And I'm very pleased to be here to doing this presentation and to see you all once more. Today, as this action that Alexei brought the idea to us, I'm going to present a little bit of my experience with BIM 5D. I'm going to start sharing my screen here. Okay, it's sharing. Can you all see it?
Yes, yes.
Nice. And so, this presentation is part of a postgraduate course in BIM that we host here in Senai Smatec, Bahia, Brazil. It's called MBI, or Master Business Innovation in Build Information Modeling. And one of the disciplines of this course is called Construction Budget and Cost Control with Parametric Models, which I am the teacher. So I'm going to present a little bit of BIM 5D that we discussed in this course. I changed a little bit the presentation of the discipline because it's a 24-hour discipline and it doesn't have any meaning to present like this here. But I brought the main points and the main thoughts that we have to have when modeling a BIM 5D model. So, first of all, I'm just recapture a little bit of budget concepts, which is important to analyze and to know how to do a BIM 5D model. I'm talking about BIM 5D, and bring three main applications of BIM 5D, which is parametric budget, generative programming, and the descriptive and executive budgets supported by BIM. Okay. So first of all, the budget concepts. We all know that budget is directly linked to the maturation of the enterprise. The budget is directly linked to the amount of information which is available. The budget is directly linked to the decision that needs to be taken from it. So these main 3 points, they define what kind of budget we will have about our enterprise. So if our enterprise in the preliminary stages of development, it's in the beginning of the design project, we will have one kind of budget. If it's in the end or starting, it's in the end of the design process, it will have another kind of budget, and it's ready for construction, or during the construction we have another kind. And these stages, each stage of design have one amount of information. We have different kinds of information, which defines which kind of budget we are going to use. And also, this budget also represents the kind of decision that needs to be taken. For example, if we in the early stages of the design, we don't have to decide yet which structural system we are going to use. We have to decide the topology of the building, the implantation, the constructed area. So we have some kind of information, so on, some kind of budget, okay? And these 3 points are linked. The think around them, the thought around them are linked. And the budget is directly linked to the cost, which is the relative cost of something or service or some material of the construction. And this cost can be divided into kind of costs. This budget can be divided into kind of costs: the direct cost and the indirect. The direct inputs are the inputs needed for production. So the one that we can measure of its consumption. So square meters, cubic meters, areas, length, this kind of inputs that are needed in the construction. The indirect kind of cost, it's more, it has more relationship with determining the size of the work. How big is the building? How long it will take to construct it? And supports tools, auxiliary installations, administrations, and so on. When you talk about already establishing a link with BIM 5G, when you're talking about modeling or creating the model, we are mainly talking about the direct cost, because it's the kind of cost that we can do the takeoff from the model. The indirect cost kind of it has a relationship with the company that are doing the construction, the kind of the construction, some other variables that are not quite easy to model in our BIM model. Okay. So we can even divide it into a scale of time. So we start with a cost estimation, then we have this descriptive budget, and so on. And after the descriptive budget, we have the operating budget. And each one of them has a percentual error that allows some kind of work to be done. So when you have cost estimation, we can have this percentual error around 30 to 15%, more or less. And we can go in, when the project evolves, it's getting we can refine the model, the project, and we have more information. So this percentage error tends to be less. We can have in descriptive budget, we have plus 15 to plus 5 or minus 15 to minus 5% of percentage error, reaching more or less 5% or 1% of this percentage errors. And the kind of information in each of these stages are related with some kind of information. So when you have cost estimation, the process is fed by a set of information and provides a non-deterministic result. So we are talking about the definition of the typology of the edification, the kind of what's this constructed area of some building. When we're talking about the descriptive budget, we are talking about cost assessments obtained through the survey of materials and service. So here we start to really do quantity takeoffs of our model, which is based on the project and the composition of their respective unit prices. And the last one, the operating budget, it considers the real cost incurred in performing the services according to the way they incur in the construction. So here in the last one, we even consider the technique that we are using and how we are going to build some element of our construction or building. And to do some to resume all the thinking about construction, when we talk about about budget, when we talk about cost estimation, it has a preliminary character. It aims at an analysis about the viability of a given enterprise. It may come before the existence of the project, and it's based on parametric relationships. When we talk about the descriptive budget, it's based on the quantity surveys, does not consider cost due to the methods or the duration of production processes, and it's supported by unit cost basis. And the operating budget, it's based on the quantity surveys. It takes into account the cost due to the methods or the duration of the production process, and match the information provided by the descriptive budget to the data obtained on site. So it has different kinds of information, and we can even have a link with the concept of load or level of development of a building model, which it's here. When we talk about quantification, when we talk about BIM 5D and quantification design stages, the first thought we have to have in mind is that BIM models are built by components with different loads or level of development. Each load has a different set of information. So when we're talking about load 100 or load 200, we have generic model information such as floor areas, walls and frames, earth moving, volumes, number of environments. When you have load 300, we have general quantitatives by type of elements such as coating equipments. And when we have load 400, we have assembly components and every kind of metadata. And we can even create a link between the stages of the kind of budgets that we're trying to have, to build, to develop, and the load of the model. So we can say that load 100 and load 200 is for cost estimation budget. We can say that load 300 is for the second kind of budget. In LOD 400, it's for the operating kind of budget. So we can do this kind of link with the stages of the budget and its precision and the stages and the kinds of level of development of a BIM model. We also have to have in mind that it's noted that as the project evolves and the load progresses, the possibility of quantities takeoffs of its components increases. And that's just the point that I try to make the link with the kind of budgets. In the start, we don't have enough information to do our operating budget. So we can do this. We have to adapt our budget process to be able to have a results that can help us to develop our enterprise. This kind of information or the quantity takeoffs, they can be extracted from the models by different procedures, varying according to the application and the mailing according to the modeling methodology and the definition of the design process. Quantities are as detailed as the level of information present in the BIM model. So we have two kinds of information here. We have the geometric information or the 3D model and the metadata. And also it's linked with the kind of budget that we are trying to develop. But we have to make ourselves a question. Is it convenient to model all the details? We have to make our model full of details or information that we actually don't need when we are talking about BIM 5D or a budget model. We have to make ourselves these questions. What should be modeled? And what defines it is just the BIM mandate and the BEP, or the BIM execution plan. So even before we start the BIM modeling, if we are trying to have a budget or at least the quantities of this BIM model, we have to define that in the start, that's the main point of our model, in which tool defines it, just the BIM mandate and the BEP. Okay. And here is some guidelines and tips that help us to define what should be modeled, what shouldn't be modeled when you are trying to develop a BIM 5D model. So when you are talking about the modeling of the BIM 5D, of a BIM 5D model, the model elements must contemplate the dimensions that should be measured. So if we are talking about the construction of a wall, how we are going to do this budget of the wall? By square meter of the wall, by the length of the wall, it should be known before we start modeling, because we have to be sure that when we are going to extract these quantities, it should be in the model. It sounds silly to say that, but I've seen some examples of people who create the model trying to do these quantities, but doesn't have this thought in mind, and had to remodel some part of its work. So it's one of the main thoughts that we have to have in mind. Another one that's quite important is that the elements must be properly classified. So we have to use some kind of codification or the name of the elements inside the BIM model. I brought here the NBR 15965, which is our main rule here in Brazil to codification this kind of work. It's a national rule that we can follow to do this kind of classification. We have to use the use of EAPs. Actually, it's .cs. It's recommended, so we can link these our model elements with the budgets or the cost estimation or the unitary cost, sorry, or the schedule of the construction. The association of sectors and sections must be previously associated with components. It's to help us construct our budgets. If we are thinking about a complex of buildings, 5 towers, or a complex of houses, which have 200 houses or something like that, if we are going to do this budget, thinking only in the square meter of floors that we're going to build in this complex, we have to have some kind of association with sector or sections. So we can say, in the first house, we have this much of floors, of square meter of floors that we are going to construct. In the second house, we have this another amount. In the third house, we have this another amount. And it also helps when we are talking about B4G, which kind the brother of B5G when we are talking about the construction of the model. And another tip is that the association of services or cost compositions can be made to object components or materials. I usually use the cost compositions linked with the objects. So if I have a column in my BIM model, I will associate my cost composition with the BIM model, with my element, my object. But we can also link it with components or materials. Again, it depends on who is developing the model and the main points that are brought in the BIM mandate and the back of the project. One important point, another important point is that not everything can be modeled, okay? But there is the possibility of indirect quantification. Because as much information as we put, bigger we get our model. So models with much information or much elements, it's usually tricky to work. It can be tricky to have some other kind of application. For example, if we're talking about a BIM model that even the door, we model the nails of the joints of the door. It will have so much information, it will be so heavy that the manipulation of the model won't be easy. And if we are using it to the representation also, it will bring much trouble to develop this other kind of application. And here I bring an example that was developed by the group study that I participate here in Bahia, which is a study of a floor plan of a building. It's a common floor plan. It repeats vertically, and it was a study of only one floor plan of the structure of the model. We model here the structural part of this floor. So we develop, we analyze the reinforcement of the concrete and the the models of the beams and columns and floors. Here, it was nice to develop all information really. And even here, we couldn't be able to model all the information. But we achieved a really nice level of development of the model. We model all the bars of the reinforcement, but the connections of the bar, it wouldn't be necessary to model, but we could analyze, and as a type floor, a type project, it was be repeated vertically. We could be sure that it was we know that the problems that we find here and the budgets that we find here, we only had to replicate vertically by the number of floors. And we also find some troubles in the project. So it were revealed after this study. Another point that which I have already presented here is that we have to know the composition cost that will be used, which there are services with alternative measurement rules. So I showed once, I think it was in our last meeting. This kind of service only had one difference. It's the presence of openings for windows in its execution. One had the opening and the other doesn't. So the unitary cost changes. If you know that the model, the wall that has openings is this one, we have one unitary cost. If the other wall doesn't have any openings, we have these other unitary costs. That's quite important if we are trying to automate our extraction and budget development. That was the guideline tips. Okay, here I bring some examples of softwares for BIM 5D that are available today in the market. So I think the most famous one is Vico software. Probably you already have heard of it. And it has a direct integration with BIM models. If we model using only, if we create our model with the concern of doing the codification of the item, right? When we export it and introduce in the Vico model, it already links with the compositions that are in its database. So it can help us to have documents control, quantification, import cost compositions, and define locations, and also planning the execution of the project. It's a quite powerful tool. We have Solidly software, which help us do some analysis. It's interesting that the examples that I found about it was mainly in the early stages of the design. I've never used Solidly before, but the comments that I've heard shows that's a quite powerful tool also. There is Profiler, which it's a North American tool. I tried to use it. It's mainly for the early stages of the design, for the cost estimation stage, but it only sell in the Canada and the United States. I tried to reach them, and they wouldn't even give me a student license to try to do some work or even teach the tool in my courses. That's too bad. It was quite the videos was quite impressive. And in general, when we are talking about BIM 5D, we have four kinds of types of developing our budget, of develop the budget. We have the inside the software, which is not the best one. I don't know if you already, probably you all already have noticed. Inside the parameters of any family or any object in the model, there is one field that's costs, execution costs. We can put the information there, and through the head schedules, we can do the budget. It's not the best one because we would have to every time what's the word? We have to redo this process of going in each family, creating setting the cost in this field, and if the cost had some actualization, we would have in the element again, and that's quite a tricky work. Another way to do the budget, is to exporting through the exploitation of the quantities information to the Excel or any spreadsheet software, and it's very interesting because it's quite easy to do the manipulation of the information there, and we can do some kind of automation also. We have BIM softwares like Pico, and we have integration with ERP. It's some kind of integrated management system for big enterprises. Today, the main process that I use is exporting to Excel. It's showing me the easiest and the cheapest also, because I already have Excel, I already have the Revit, so I don't have to buy another software to do the budget. Okay, now I'm going to show some concepts that are focused mainly on the kind of the budgets of this application of BIM 5D, and also some examples. When we talk about parametric budget or the cost estimation phase, we usually it's usually done from indicators such as cost per square meters. In the BIM model, we also have the need in this kind of cost estimation of the cost to classify the elements, and according to the methodology that we'll be using in the estimation. So if you are trying to find only the square meter of our building, we could actually only use a mass model, and it's easy to find this kind of information, and you can do this cost estimation. And it's important to say that because when we are talking about cost estimation, we are talking about a phase in the project that we are defining the first decisions of the project. So we are trying to define the typology of the building, the implementation, the main the area of our building. So the mass model, as an example in the Revit, it allows us to do this kind of analysis, and it helps us to have this information for cost estimation. But we also have the use of generative programming also as a basis to the parametric budget, where we can program, we can use algorithms. Here is an example of Dynamo. It's actually my master dissertation, where I program the form of the building and extracting quantities information in use to do budgets of the building. The interesting part here is that I didn't work with that indicators that I showed just now, square cost by square meter. No, I was actually using the volume of concrete, the area of the forms for the molds for the concrete, because the generative algorithms allowed me to make this model much more quicker. So I use it to have more information in an early stage. To have some idea, this study, this little house, this little building, it is actually real project, and it was the first study of my dissertation, and I had to analyze the structure of it, comparing the material solutions. So here in this graph here, we have the cost of three kinds of materials, different materials, concrete in wood and just wood. And I were able to do 32 different budgets in one morning, use the generative algorithms to create the model. And it's not only into this simplest form of buildings. Also, I will, after some study and programming testing, I were able to develop more accurate BIM models through programming, and the study of typologies got more complex, and also have the quantities of every element that were modeled in the process. And also I did some comparison. If you see here, if superestrutura is structure of the building, and it presents a percentual error of -5.91% in the cost estimation phase, which it's the percentual error of a descriptive budget, and so on. I had more higher percentual errors, but it showed me that was quite an impressive tool to use in the early stages of the development of the design stage, and to decisions. And to use it to decisions, it was quite useful. And the last one, it's the descriptive of the executive budget supported by BIM. In the traditional paper-based estimation mode, the time spent on the survey can be divided into three stages. First, we have the identification of the items and their interrelationships in project and specifications, dimension search, and calculation of aggregation of the quantities, length, areas, and volumes of the identified items. Quantification activity is time-consuming and error-prone. So in the budget process, we actually consume more time during the quantification. Some studies that I read actually say that 80% of the time that we invest in the budget, it's spent on the quantification. And that's the main point of it. BIM doesn't do budgets. BIM do the quantities, and the professionals that are using the model do the budgets. And because there is this story that BIM can do budgets. No, the budget is a process that's done by a professional, and the BIM comes as a tool to make faster the process of quantification, which only if we use and we model our BIM model properly. So, as I said, BIM comes as a way to automate the quantitative survey, which is the main benefit. And when associated with 3D visualization, it's possible to perform the analysis in a variety of ways. And according to several authors, BIM must meet the following requirements for using cost estimation. So it has to have sufficient details. The sufficient details must be provided to generate an estimate. The model should allow the extraction of quantities of the building components grouped by WS, and provide accurate quantities for each of the cost items defined by the WS. And the main extracting methods for extracting quantities are exporting the quantity objects to budget software, direct connection between BIM components and the budget software, and use of a quantitative survey tool. But we have to have in mind that despite the identified benefits, there are obstacles in the 5D application of the BIM model. For BIM model and inadequate information, we have to pay attention in this point because it's quite common. The professional develop the model thinking about the representation, and in a change of the mind of his thought, he wants or she wants to use it as a BIM 5D model. It won't happen because the information that are needed probably won't be in the model. Issues related to extended data, and if we are talking about the use of more than one software, if we are talking about using the Revit or the vehicle or the Solibri or ArchiCAD and Solibri, and even if we are talking about IFC, we have problem with this data simply disappear in the process of closing one software and opening the other. That's one problem, and actually that's one of the reasons why I prefer to use Excel instead of vehicle software or any other. And the lack of standardization in inadequate cost allocation format. So if we don't have these standards codifications or the cost in the standards unity costs, we have problems during the BIM 5D model. So we have to pay attention in this. We have to have a BIM mandate. We have to have a BEP that will define which way everyone in this project will have to follow to guarantee the results that are aimed. And here I just brought one example of a BIM model for a descriptive budget, which is actually the modeling of every part of the model of the system. So if you are talking about a monthly construction, we have to have the master marking, which is a service, actually here in Brazil. I really don't know how it works in other parts of the world. We have the surface of the masonry itself. We have the grip of the masonry on the top. We have all the layers of the finish, roof guys plastering, the paint, and so on. So if you are talking about a descriptive model, we have to have a descriptive BIM model, really, really defined and with the most information that is possible BIM model. And that's it, folks. Thanks for sharing. I'm sorry for my English; it's a little bit roughy, but I hope that everyone had understood.
Thank you, Bruno. I think right now is the part where each of us can either write our question to the chat or unmute and ask. Maybe I will start with my first question. In the beginning, you mentioned what we can have direct, see direct cost and indirect cost. Am I right? What this variation in estimation comes from this indirect cost part?
Yeah. Because this indirect cost is actually the kind of cost that will come with the size of the construction and how long it will take, or how much people are working in the construction or on the company that are doing the construction. So it's variables that can be modeled and actually vary from company to company. And this is actually where the difference between budgets come.
Okay, thank you. And now my question. So right now, what I see more and more popular prefabricated parts. So I mean, how you see it can be really used in the cost estimation with comparison between prefabricated or really on-site production?
I think it's actually the best way because it controls the process of the construction, which in consequence control the budgets. The industrialization, I think it's a way that shouldn't be fight. We shouldn't fight against. It's the best way um, to evolve the construction because it will help us to define our better our costs. An example, when we are talking about the last kind of budget that I brought, the operating budget, the construction process have inflation in the budgets. So how I'm going to construct here in the last example to raising a wall, we have to have the masonry marking, and we have to have the masonry and the masonry grid. If we're talking about industrialization, we don't have all these three stages to construct only one element. We can only have the that's my role that came from the industry, and I have to put in this spot, in this location in my construction. So it makes the process much simpler, and 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 because of it becomes simpler, it becomes cheaper and easy to do this kind of quantification and the cost estimation.
Okay, thank you. And maybe my last question, you mentioned several software which you try to evaluate. For example, you mentioned about Solibri, but you didn't mention the Navisworks. I think they have also this model which called quantification. Is it what you didn't just had the time to prove it?
No, I have already used it, but actually I'm more in my experience. I'm not a very experienced user of Navisworks. But in my experience, I thought it was as much complicated as doing the quantification inside these fields inside the Revit. And I was, in the end, I was actually exporting the quantities to another software, the Excel or any other, to do the same process. So today I don't use the Navisworks for my budget, my budget process. I only use the Revit. I configure the schedules and everything inside of it, and then I do the exportation to the Excel.
Okay, thank you. Dear experts, please go ahead and ask your question. Unmute your microphone and ask your question, please.
Perhaps me, if I may. Hello to everybody. My question, Bruno, is that you usually has coordinated models, not one simple Revit file. And did you try, I mean, you probably have Revit files linked to a Revit file, and then you put your Dynamo scripts and visual programs, you probably will get the quantification and all this stuff will work. But if there is, for instance, an IFC model linked to Revit, are you able to reach into its components through Dynamo?
Yeah, I've never tried this kind of extraction yet, because I developed another kind of modeling. So I don't use link Revit to work with different disciplines in the model. What I usually do is that I configure my template with different kinds of views. So I have the view that are configured only to see the elements of the structure, views that we can only see a model and change the elements of map, HVAC, plumbing, or electrical. So I only use everything inside of one model, and okay, this is the main model. Everyone is working on it, in it, and this way I can do the extraction. But it's possible, if I remember correctly, it's possible to do the extraction of linked models, because when we're trying to link, there is one option that we can make that the model that are linked, it's hosted inside of our model that we are working, or we always have to relink every time that it is the file open. I think it's possible, but I don't usually work that way. I try to use everything inside one model. I have one template that I configure to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, excuse me.
Hi, Ricardo.
Hi. Firstly, I would like to congratulate you, Bruno, for your presentation. You showed a lot of aspects from the way we do some kind of estimation in Brazil, and you showed a lot of possibilities to use the evaluation costs as a strategy to do some decisions in BIM. But I think here we must be careful about the some conditions to do in our task. We have 2 or 3 hours, 4 hours to propose the task to competitors, and so I think we have to be directly to the point and do a very simple task for making it possible as a task to our model, to our discipline. So I think we have two things to do. We have to propose the task and how we are going to assess this in the end. Despite your explanation was very complete and very good, I think we have some kind of particularities that makes it different from all the countries that are involved in it. So we have to do it very simple. So we have to propose the task, look into the results. To do that, we have to make some instructions. Then the competitors do the task as asked for in the model, and we check the results at the end. That's because I was proposing a very simple task at that document we did before at that weeks that we worked in that. So I think we have to do it easily, to do it straight to our task today for the modeling, to the modeling problem that we have to solve.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Ricardo. And that's the point. That's actually one of the points that I try to bring here. It's that we have to define the main point or the object or the objective, the main point of the use of our BIM model. So why, for what we are using it? What's the kind of information that we have to extract from it? If we were trying to do the budget, or okay, our BIM model is for budget. Now the second question, what kind of budget? It's estimation cost, it's a descriptive cost budget, or it's operating budget. We have to answer the second question. And then we have to define, okay, it's estimation cost. So we have to develop a process that can guarantee to us that we will reach these results. So, okay, it's estimation cost. Then we have to follow these kind of rules to develop our model. And my point in the test of, I think you are talking about the word skills, it's mainly that we have to define the main point of the model. What's this point? What we are trying to reach with it? Oh, okay. Our model in the word skills or in the SkillCamp will be a budget model of a quantity survey. We don't have to define or one wall model all the 5 layers of one side of all the 5 layers of the other side, and depending on the technique, the 3 stages of construction of the wall. No, we don't have to do that, but it will depend what's our main point of our model. We have to have this in mind, and that's what I try to bring. we had to define what's the point. Okay, our point will be the estimation cost. Then we have to do a test, a project test to estimation cost. I don't know if I made myself clear. Do you understand, Ricardo?
Yeah, sure, I agree with you. What I'm trying to tell is that there are some things that have to be more simple. When you say about direct or indirect costs, for example, I think this is one thing particularly used in Brazil. When we are trying to talk about a project test, for example, we have to do a value for square meters, or value for a cubic meter, or value for per unit. So we have we can do things easier. But I agree with you. We have to know firstly what we have to do. What for is the estimation we are trying to propose. But
That's
I
the
agree with
point.
you. I just think it has to be simple. It has to be easy to competitors do. Even we have differences between Brazil, China, Russia, and other countries in the way to estimate costs. So we have to do a task that is directly and easy to competitors make the task, and then we evaluate that as a simple way.
Sure, I agree with you. And one way that we could do this is trying to give them only one composition cost. Structure. The value of the concrete, the meter cubic meter of the concrete, and they will have to model following the composition. That's one way to that we can think. But the main point that I try to bring here is what's the main point of the BIM model.
I don't understand. You are asking me, sorry.
No, I
Okay,
didn't
okay.
I didn't ask you.
Okay, okay. So,
Hey, dear colleague. Yeah,
sorry.
you go ahead, Ricardo. Ricardo, go ahead.
Okay. I would like to propose we develop a task, and after that we discuss the steps or the way to do the task and evaluation for our next weeks. So it would be easier to discuss and make how to do the the task and evaluation, the steps to do that.
Sorry, I don't understand you, Ricardo. What task?
I said that I propose we can develop a task for our next presentation for the next 2 weeks, and with the task developed, we can discuss it. Uh, it will be easier to discuss what we have to do, the way we have to do, what we need to as result for the task, and then the assessment. I think it will be easier. I don't know.
I see what I understand now. Might be. I have one question. Who's next? Who is the next one to do this presentation?
Hi, Bruno. So, I mean, we have several reflecting back to our session, we have several other proposals. Do you remember what if you're talking about more or less the same topics? Additionally to you, Ricardo had something to say, and I guess Chris had something to say. We were in our area about free visualization and animation, where I guess Chris, Leon, and Anna wanted to share something. So to me, it's really your readiness to do it, and we can really just set up a date and schedule a meeting. Well, that's very easy.
Nice.
So, for example, right now, Ricardo, for example, if I understood his correctly, he proposed to have example of one task and maybe go for that topic which you right now discussing, and maybe have that example to really jointly discuss it. Will it be okay or not? So I mean, in that case, if Ricardo can lead that follow-ups, it will be great. So I mean, so that is really, we don't have some kind of a prescription. We don't have some kind of must mode. It's really from us to share, just because, as I mentioned in the beginning, I had got several messages directly to me asking about the opportunities to have share to save to record our conversation and then share to the group, just because many have some kind over the same events during parallel, so that's why we will see it after.
Okay then.
Okay, so in that case, maybe one question from my side, which I wanted to ask, and when I was dropped off, you mentioned about this EMBE program, and my question is, what is your target audience? And secondly, I think in Russia, it's really very hot topics. Many schools want to launch some kind of BIM program, but either implemented BIM into curriculum or have separate program. But anyway, it's always a question who will be with our target audience, and secondly, what is the curriculum? If you could really say some words about it, it will be great.
Okay, I sure, I sure can. Our main the course was built to teach BIM to architects and engineers, civil engineers, and technicians also. And it's on its fourth year, which I am one of the teachers and also the technical reference of the course. So I indicate that the professors I actually have a close relation with the students, and I also do some orientation on some conclusion projects and end of the course projects, and it's many I forgot the word that said the public that we are trying to reach is actually architects and engineers. I can show you one thing about the course. Let me just open my another presentation here. 1 second. Now, can you see my screen?
Yes.
So the course is called MBI BIM, or Master of Business Innovation, because the innovation is because we really try to do the final course work, innovative work, some innovative thoughts and ideas. It's divided in 3 modules. The BIM tools, that we have 200 hours of teaching tools, BIM tools. Actually, the name it's quite clear. Here we talk about Revit, ArchiCAD, TKS, which is a structural software from Brazil, and Navisworks, and its applications, architecture, structure, and map. We have the design of models, the models management, and the models operation, which is different applications of the BIM model, which in the end makes 360 hours. And we have the connection innovation, which is actually the last, the final work of the course. And here in the tools, we have BIM tools. We have 5 kind of disciplines. BIM technology for architecture, which is Revit and ArchiCAD, each one with 40 hours. We have BIM technology for installations for map, which is 32 hours. We have BIM technology for structure, which is 20 hours, and BIM technology for model integration, which is 20 hours. Here's Navisworks, TKS, HabitMap, and Habit and ArchiCAD here. And also an introduction discipline with 12 hours. Here it's parametric modeling, so we teach Grasshopper and Dynamo, BIM coordination, BIM model coordinations, construction and projects. It's here. How can I translate? Just it's the organization of enterprises or companies that use BIM, and implementation and planning of BIM, collaboration, one discipline, focus in collaboration, and all the tools that allow us to do this, the collaboration between the professionals. And we have simulation tools, also Grasshopper and Dynamo, with honeybees, ladybug, and all the applications. The BIM 5D disciplines, the BIM 4D, also a discipline focus on reality, augmented reality and virtual reality. One focus in infrastructure, so it's one of the differential of the courses. These disciplines of being focused in infrastructure. And the last model, innovation creation, to give the basis to the student to do this innovative work. Some associated technologies with BIM. How can I translate desempenho? Let me just, sorry, I really don't know this word in English. Performance, of course. The performance of the building, green BIM, and facilities. And the last one, the people organization. So how we are going to organize our people to work with the BIM, and it includes with the TCC. That's the structure of our post-graduation in BIM here. It's in the end it's 650 hours, of course, after 21 months of course.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if I answered your question, actually.
Yeah, in
I hope
principle,
so.
so maybe principles. Yeah, I guess, yeah. Okay, expert. Is any last final question from your side? I don't see any unmuted microphone. So Bruno, I would really thank you for really a great start. I think it will be great if you, okay, I will upload the recording. If you can really upload your presentation, it will be great. And as a follow-up, so I mean, I will ask it in our groups who will be the next with each topic. So I mean, it's feel free to propose. Uh, I think right now we appear at additional proposal from Ricardo. So I mean, it's really working a living process. Please write down either directly to me or in the common group your proposals, and I hope we can really continue to benefit from our cooperation and really share our best practices and will make our own program better, because I think some example which you shows to us, okay, to me, I did not came to that deeply stages. I guess for me it was good, but I mean for Ricardo, it's maybe the same day-to-day business. For Jacek, I think you also have very advanced skills in that area. So I mean, but it will be great also to share, to see your experience, your point of view, because I guess you have different perspective, as I understood, even from today's discussion.
Yeah, it was. I'd like to say thanks to the opportunity to do this presentation. Thanks for everyone for being here in the morning, afternoon, or evening. It's quite challenging to do this kind of presentation. And thanks everyone. And I hope I were able to show my experience. And again, I'm open to any question here or after in the group. And I hope we can do this a common event. So because it's quite interesting to have this kind of interaction with other people, not in many places of the world.
Jacek, you unmute your microphone, or Ricardo, do you want to say something?
Yeah, sure. Bruno, I would like to invite you to do, we do together the development of the task. What do you think about?
Let's more work. Nice. Yeah, let's talk about it. It will be a pleasure, Ricardo. Let's talk about it and develop this work.
And all the people which want to participate also. I just would like to know how long I will have to do this. When we meet again? Some kind of phrase in English are very difficult for us.
Okay, Ricardo, so you see, we thought initially we could have a meeting once a month. If we will have more topics to discuss, we can do it often. But right now, for example, Bruno was not available on 25th of September, so we shifted for 1 week. So, I mean, that is really adjustable.
Okay. I think if someone has something to presentate before, I would earn some time to better develop it.
Okay. Okay.
I have something to presentate about the structural modeling. It's almost ready, not ready, but about cost, we will have to do it from the start.
Okay, great. So, I mean, I think about structural modeling, I think also Jacek has a very great experience in that area. So I think it could be really very interesting discussion.
Well, if I may say a word,
Yes.
yeah, I'd be happy to share with you rather the coordination things, because there is a lot of misunderstanding between branches, between professionals. And for instance, I just was working on a project with Krakow subway. I mean, it's a proposal to build, and you know, professionals who did the models, they didn't coordinate, and I have very fresh thoughts about how we should structure our teaching,
Mm-hmm.
and that we should start from begin to teach a coordination thing, because BIM models are not like paper.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you pass paper to your colleagues, they understand that this building is placed somewhere in the terrain on the side, and they coordinate in their mind. So if you put your structural model to the architectural one, the structural model will be well coordinated on the paper. But in BIM, we
Mm-hmm.
all the time happen to see, you know, moved, shift, rotated, or another space, and so on. So I think that structuring this in the curriculum, and it's also with postgraduate, I mean, professionals on the market are not aware of this,
Mm-hmm.
because BIM changes. So I think it would be my focus on this,
Mm-hmm.
because, and I'd be happy to say that a couple of days ago, I was busy the whole September and I didn't participate in the work with you, because we had the first ever certification in Poland for BIM coordinators.
Mm-hmm.
Did under foundation of, we call this foundation European Center for BIM certification. So we had 7 people on the exam. It was a practical and theoretical one.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting experience for all us. So we try to foster, you know, in Poland some professional certification for people who are not students, but they're on the market, and they're lacking some knowledge. And I think it's also a business value to have a certificate that the company can hire you with some sort of evidence, supporting evidence that you are a professional in the area of BIM. So this is my a story to say after the couple of weeks of not being with all you guys.
Yeah.
So if you have, I mean, you know, it's a beginning of the academic year, so the first 2-3 weeks I'll be busy on online teaching, preparing materials. You know, it's still COVID situation, so we have some sort of hybrid teaching, and it is crazy. But perhaps in November or later, I could share with you some material I developed for our students, how to teach them the coordinate systems in Revit, coordination, shared coordinates. If this is an interesting topic, I can share it with you.
Yeah, thank you, Jacek. And I think that's what you come in also from this certification, which is directly linked to business, I think, and with really having a real example with you, it's really have a really great value. So
well, can say something about it, of course. Perhaps show you some tasks. And we structure it according to the ISO 19600-550, which is the international standard. So we try to also you know, build in the standard, the ISO standard requirements into the curriculum of this training, because it's important to understand the lingua franca of BIM nowadays, which is the ISO standard. I mean, family of standards, yes.
Yeah. I think because in my really interest about is really this ISO about how we can really bring to curriculum is big question mark, just because as I read the standard, it's very, very generic, and how it brings to into curriculum, to me it's really a little big question mark, but it will be great to follow up with you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so colleagues, it was really very interesting discussion and follow-up question. So I see what Ricardo with Bruno already initiated some follow-up, some kind of spin-off, like business people talking to develop some examples how we can use it for our task. We got 2 even proposals for DEX experience sharing meetings. It's again very great. And please, I will, after our, as I will get this recording, I will put it there. Bruno, also, it will be great if you could also provide it to our group, your presentation, and maybe just links to your program, because if somebody like me would like to get more information, we can really follow up from your site. So I mean, so that's why it will be really compelling approach. So with that, I will really thank each of you for participation. We right now really finishing it exactly like I mentioned, 1.5 hours. Our maximum time, it's 4 minutes still before ahead, but it will be very great to see all of you, to talk and to have some very good insights and from the presentation of Bruno. So Bruno, thank you again. It was very great tool, and thank you very much for all of you for participation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Alexei, again.
Thank you,
everyone.
Alexei. Thank you.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.